Hey everyone! Alright, it is time for a new workout, and I probably say this about all of them, but this one is one of my favorites, or at least my favorite way to exercise, or a great adjunct to doing some more intensive exercises. So I'm talking specifically to the runners in the crowd, the cyclists, the high intensity trainers, the CrossFit crew, or maybe if you are just somebody who maybe isn't that active right now, but you're finding you've got lots of like moans and groans in your body. The reason I like this kind of workout, I call it lengthen and strengthen, is that we're really gonna kind of systematically work our way through some areas of the body that for most people tend to carry a lot of tension, whether it's muscle tension or nerve tension. And tension sort of creates some pain or discomfort or weakness, and we're sort of going to lengthen the muscle through its whole length. So you'll understand as we get going, but ultimately you should feel that it's a strength workout, okay? So it's not just a series of stretches, but there's definitely a big kind of stretch component as we go through it. So without further ado, let's get started. As always, I like to start by just loosening up through the hips and pelvis, especially if you've been sitting today. Things may feel a little rusty, a little Tin Man-like. And even as you start to move through the pelvis, so we're going to work a lot of muscles in the legs, the hamstrings and the adductors specifically. They tend to need some lengthening and strengthening. And you should feel, even as you sort of rock your pelvis side to side here, you should start to feel a little bit of that stretch, and maybe you feel it more on one side versus the other. And then you can really dip yourself forward, feel things more through the back of the legs. Always a soft bend in the knee so that we're not locking our knees. And then bring your arms into it. So you're going to come over to one side. You can sweep your arm down and around, and then bring the other arm over, and then same thing, sweep it down and around. Even this motion, you should start to feel what's going on kind of in your low back and your shoulder girdle. Sweep it around, let your head hang heavy. Always a soft bend in the knees. Sweep that arm around. Good, come on up into standing. So we're gonna start with the lower body. We might as well start right in this position here. So what I want you to do, if your legs tolerate the position, so sort of a disclaimer is if you do have a lot of sort of nerve tension, which will manifest itself in like a really strong pull or maybe like tingling or maybe a burning sensation, then ease off sort of your range of motion, okay? But we want to kind of push the limits of what our bodies will allow us to do in a successful way. So turn your feet so that they are parallel to one another. So in this position, they naturally usually want to turn out. Turn them so they're parallel to one another. If you're already feeling tension there, then let them turn out a little bit, okay? So once we're here, you're going to take yourself over to one side and over to the other. So we're starting pretty simply. You're not going to extremes yet, but you're shifting weight into one knee, and you can see my upper body hinges with me. So I come down and over, keeping my back straight. So from the side, this is my motion, okay? Just like you're squatting into one leg, and I like to put a hand on my low back here. Kind of gives me feedback that I'm not arching or flexing through my back. And then I like one hand where like my thumb touches my bottom of my rib cage and my pinky touches my pelvis so that I can keep my ribs in line with my pelvis, so right over top of my pelvis. Good. So you're going to keep with this same motion, but now you're going to take it over, and then you're just going to come up a couple of inches, and then back over and up. Good. My foot's already wanted to turn out, so I'm going to try and correct for that and see how this feels. And I definitely feel a pull or a stretch on the inside of this leg, but I also feel on the outside of this leg just from that foot position of turning it in slightly. And I'd hazard a guess I've got a little bit of nerve tension in that leg. So I'm not trying to force it, but I'm definitely trying to work that motion out. Try and keep low here. 5, 4, About 80% of your weight should be on this leg. 3, 2, and 1. Good, bring it up and then over into the other leg. So interestingly, keeping this foot forward, I feel nothing through the side of this leg. Much different experience. Still feeling the stretch through this inner thigh. And then tiny movements here. So like an inch or so that you're moving, maybe a couple inches. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, keep breathing. 4, 3, I'm coming up way too high. 2, and 1. Good. Come back up into straight position. And then you're going to take yourself over to where you can touch your hands to the ground and then up. So we're getting into much more of a bend through the knee. What I will say is if your knee doesn't tolerate trying to, like, being able to push up from this position, then you can use the hands as you need to. But you're really trying to get your knee or your quads to work in this position. Okay, really important sort of functional position to have strength in. Being in this bend and come up. Now you can do the same thing without touching your knee, your hands to the ground. Just make sure you're getting into that maximal knee bend. Lots of stretch through the inner thigh. And then see how it feels. Does one leg feel a lot stronger to come up out of that position? So one side you may need some help from the hands. The other side may feel a-okay. Good, my feet have naturally migrated their way out. Not a big deal. Good. And now we're going to take it to one side. Little pulses here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then over to the other side. 1, 2, 3, back's nice and straight. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Bring it up and then just stretch those hips out side to side. Good. Now bring your feet in so that they're hip width apart. And then what you're going to do here is, I'm going to show you the motion. Essentially, we're kicking this leg up. Now, the key to this is you can see I'm allowing the weight shift to happen to my standing leg. There's a slight bend in this standing knee. And I'm lifting this leg up, but I'm not allowing my upper body to tilt with it, okay? Upper body stays relatively straight. I'm weight shifting and lift. I'm gonna come back a bit so you can see my whole face. Good. And it's a fairly quick motion. There's definitely a bit of momentum to lift that leg up, and we're going to change that in a second. But really, you're just trying to work through the full range of that hip. Okay, so we've been working one side here. Stay on that side. You're going to come up and then try to slowly lower. Shift your weight over, lift that leg up slowly. Oh, that wasn't good, Meg. Lift your weight up. Pause, slowly lower, way harder. You should feel everything in the standing leg have to work a lot harder. And then definitely everything in that opposite leg working to control that motion. Really, really, really good exercise. Good, keep going here. Up, lower, slowly. Let's do a couple more. 1. And last one here. 2. Good. Now come on over to the other side and you can start just getting the motion down. So slight bend in the standing leg. Other leg comes up and down. Upper body stays straight. Doesn't matter how high you can lift your leg, just as long as you're getting it to your limit. Okay? And now come up, pause. Slowly lower that leg back down. Shift and up. I couldn't do it there. Pause, Meg. Pause. Slowly lower. It's hard, I'm telling you. That leg's heavy and it just wants to drop. Pause. Slowly lower. Good. Let's do 3 more. 2 more. Lower. Good. Lots of work for that standing leg as well. Slowly lower. Good. Excellent. Now we're going to turn things the opposite way. You can obviously stay where you're standing or the direction you're standing, but I'm going to show you from the side what we're going to do here. So everything we've been doing is sort of working this plane of motion, and now we're going to work this plane of motion, okay? So working more the muscles of the front and the back of the legs. So you're going to get into a nice stride stance. Your back heel should have to be lifted, so take a big enough step that that back heel comes up off the mat. And then what we're going to start with is just shifting forward, shifting back. Okay, you can see here I stay in line with that back leg for the most part as I come forward. So there's a little hinge at my hip as I come forward, and now my upper body and my back leg are one nice long line. And my weight shifts, so right now I'm about 50-50 on each leg, and then I shift to about 80% on that front leg, and then push off of it to come back. Shift forward, push through that foot, that front foot to come back. Good. Now, if you can, start playing around with what your limit is there. So as I drop forward, obviously it gets a lot harder to push up through that knee. So do what works where you can do it successfully without a lot of compensations through the rest of your body or pain in the knee, etc. Push. I love this one. I said that about every exercise so far. Good. If you need a little bit of help, we're going to come lower. Hands are on the mat, sort of like you're starting at a race line. And then you're going to shift forward and back into legs. So you should feel a stretch through the back leg as I come up. Okay? Just work back and forth here for a second. Work those muscles out. Good, and now you're going to come forward and you're going to hold. So if you can, lift those arms up. So in yoga, this would be the runner's pose. Arms come up, hold this position, and now movements forward and back. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good, come up, and then swap those legs. So opposite orientation, you're going to take a big step so that that back heel is lifted off the ground, and then you're just going to start rocking back and forth, shifting your weight from the back leg to the front leg. Now, pay attention to how one side feels versus the other. Is one a lot harder to push back up through? I don't know. Does one feel like more of a stretch? I don't know. Do what feels good for your body. Good, and then come down and work just a small range there. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now bring your hands down and keep your hands on the mat as you just bend and lift. More so for the back leg than the front leg. Shift forward and then come up, push that heel down, stretch through the back leg. I don't have a ton of pressure through my hands, but as much as you need to sort of control this motion nicely. Good. Right down, stretch into both hips just in a different way. Come up and then come forward and then lift those arms up alongside your body and hold. And then little motions here. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. And then come right up. You're going to stay in the same sort of lineup. So your feet are going to actually be in tandem, meaning one is directly in front of the other, like you're on a balance beam. Okay? So in this position here, foot right in front of the other, you're going to shift your weight forward to your front leg, and you're going to lift that back leg up, tap it down, shift back. Okay, stay on that balance beam. Shift forward, whole body and leg tip forward, and then come back. Shift and lift. That's a good one, Meg. Nice little rhyme. Shift forward, lift, body comes with that leg. Nice stretch through the standing hamstring as well as through the back leg. So see if you can lift here, but flex your foot. Okay, so toes come up towards your head of the lifting leg. Up and back down, up and back down. Good, couple more and then we're gonna change it up slightly. Up and back down, beautiful stretch. Up and down. Now this time you're gonna stay in the lifted position. And then from here, you're gonna tap and lift. So we're not shifting our weight out of that standing leg. So you should feel lots of work through that hamstring. Slight bend in the knee as we come up and we come down. The knee bend stays the same, but you should feel lots of work through that hamstring, work through the glute of the standing leg. Good, now stay in the lifted position, and if you can, little micro bends with the standing knee. 8, 7, shouldn't have looked. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. And then you know it's coming. We're going to switch to the other way. So stand in your tandem stance. Okay, and then we're shifting weight forward. How do we start this one? We shift forward and we lift, right? Yeah, that's where we started. Come back, shift and lift. Good. Once you get that motion down, try doing it where you flex that back, that lifted leg. Okay, so toes towards your head, toes to the nose if we want to speak in rhyme. Shift and lift. Got them all. Good. Couple more here. Get that motion down. And then come into that lifted position. And then here you're just dropping your foot to tap and back up. I like to put my hands on my hips here because it's super important your hips stay level. So for a lot of you, the hip will kind of open up to the side that's lifting, sort of like this. Make sure both, think of them like headlights. Both are pointing directly ahead and then they point to the ground. And then they point ahead and then they point to the ground. Okay, keep going here. 5, woo, lots of tension in this right leg. 4, 3, 2, and then keep that leg lifted. And if you can here, little micro pulses with the knee. You can hold on to something if you need to for a little bit of balance. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good, and then come back up. Lovely. So we've worked this plane, and we've worked this plane, and now we want to create a little bit of rotational movement. So what you're going to do here is you're going to bring your feet wide again. If you can, feet are both pointing forward versus rotated out. See what your body will allow for. And then you're going to come over to one knee, and then you're going to swing that arm up. Touch it down to the ground. So everything in through the hip rotates down with it. And then lift it up, and hip opens up as the arm opens up. Now, if you want to make this a little bit more challenging, more of an exercise than a stretch, is take this arm off. So think as if you have a ball, and you are lifting it from the ground and up. 8, 7, stay low through your legs. Nothing through my legs moves other than rotating. 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then come up and then over into the other side. So one thing that tends to happen there is as we rotate, our whole body kind of lifts up with us. Make sure that everything from the pelvis down, it stays the same height. It's just sort of doing this rotational movement, okay? So now, again, my feet have wanted to turn out. I'm gonna come over to this side. Hand can stay on the knee to start. You can just sort of open up through those hips and through that spine and rotate that arm up and back. And then if you want to increase the challenge through the legs, through the core, rotate as one unit. Really try as you come down not to flex your back, okay? So back stays straight. If you need to get lower to the ground, do it by sinking your hips further back. And then up we go. 6, 5, I don't know what number we're at. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. And then come up and swirl everything around. Good. All right, let's take it down to the mat. I'm just gonna lower my screen a little bit so you can see the floor. Okay, so we're gonna do a couple things down on the mat. One of my favorite ways to work the hamstrings, well, I should say favorite and least favorite, so it's very challenging for me, but I like to tell other people to do it all the time. So I'm putting my hands up here just so you can see. You're more than welcome, or I advise you can have my, actually you guys can see. I can keep my hands down here. So you're gonna lift up into a bridge, but you're not gonna lift so high that you have to arch your back. So see the difference here as I lift up? That's the end of my hip movement. To come up higher, I would be arching my low back. So be mindful of here's where my hips sort of stop. Here's me arching my back, okay? Play around with that. Find where the hip stops. Hold things there, and then you are going to walk your heels away from you, and then walk them back in, trying not to let that bum move up and down too much. Walk the legs out, walk them back in. Good. For those who maybe, I don't know who would be watching this and not exercising, but if you are, this will look super simple. I gotta lift up and recorrect here. If you are doing it, you will feel maybe even some cramping through the back of those legs. Keep going. Great hamstring exercise, my friends. My bum's getting low. Good, let's do one more on each leg. Good, let that back come down. You can stretch everything out for a hot second. And then I'm gonna tuck it all back in here, so you can see my back. And then you're going to come back up into that bridge, again, not allowing our back to extend. And then from here, you're going to kick your leg up and keep the heel, the foot flexes as it comes down, it points as it goes up. Flex, point, flex, point. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Bring it in. Stretch everything out this way or this way, whatever feels good for you for a little quickie break. And then you are going to come up and do the opposite. So theoretically, the closer your feet are to you, it should help your glutes work more than your hamstrings. If you're further away, your hamstrings may come into play. So if you're getting cramps through the hamstrings, you may want to walk your feet in a skosh. Okay, so here we are, we're lifted. Keep that bum lifted, bring that leg out. Point as you come up, flex to come down. And breathe. You should be able to hear my aggressive breathing as I do this. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring it down and stretch everything out however you may enjoy. And then you're going to flip yourself over. Come on to hands and knees, 4-point, if you will. And then you are going to come up into, in yoga, what would be a downward dog. And then from here, what you're going to do, I need to make mine a little wider. You're going to roll up and over the shoulders, and then push the arms back
to come back into your dog. Okay? Push through your heel or your balls of your feet to come up and forward over top of your arms. And then push through your hands when more weight is there to come back into your downward dog. Push through the balls of the feet to lift up and over those shoulders. Once the weight's forward, push through the arms and send yourself back. Now there should always be a slight bend in the knees and a slight bend in the elbows. You won't hear me say lock your arms or lock your legs. Never, never, never. Not saying it's gonna your joints are gonna disintegrate. It's not like a bad versus good thing. It's just how we are choosing to work. We are working those stability muscles around these joints. And as soon as you lock a joint, it's basically giving them a massive break. And we don't want to. We want to take the work out of the joint, out of the skeleton, and put it into the muscles. Forward, push through those hands, and come back up. Good, let's do one more. Come forward, breathe, and then come and push back up. Good, and then from here, let's come down into tabletop and just finish with some lengthening, okay, through the arms and the legs. So what you're gonna do is kick opposite arm up, and I want you to think as if someone's pulling this arm and pulling this leg in opposite directions. They're both lifting away from one another, and then you're gonna bring them in, tap each other, and lengthen. Now, I could have a tennis ball or a book or anything on my low back and it should not move. So my movement does not look like this. It's not a hinge happening from my low back. It's a hinge happening at my hip and a hinge happening at my shoulder. Everything else stays nice and sturdy. 4, slight bend in the opposite elbow. 3, 2, and 1. And then switch sides, my friends. Arm and leg go out, nice and long through the body. Tap them in and back. Stable through our midsection. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then you can just sit yourself like a mermaid and reach over to the opposite of the feet that are trailing behind. Give yourself a little bit of a stretch there. And then flip around. Feel free to stay there longer. I'm just, so you don't have to watch me stretch. My goodness, that feels good. And what I will say is a little caveat. A nice way I like to assess tension around the hip joint is actually sitting like this. So sit like this and see how easy it is to get your weight on both sit bones. And then swivel the legs the opposite way and see how easy it is. So you guys can probably already see I cannot get into this hip without it pinching and creating pain. So I definitely don't advocate that you force the movement to happen. But then I want you to be aware of, okay, this is a lot harder for me to get into, meaning this hip is likely not moving quite as well in that direction. And so how can I sort of move into that movement and loosen things up a little bit, okay? So just a little bonus feature for my friends out there. And there I can sit nice and square, no problem. This knee gets pretty close to the ground. And then you can probably see the difference here, although it's getting better. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining in, and I look forward to the next workout. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, see ya.